Hello again, everyone. I'm Ben Spearman, the General Director of Bronx Opera, here for episode 7 of BXO Breathes. And today our wonderful leader is Elizabeth Harris. Adjust your and everything will work just marvelously. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. And Liz.
Cool, thank you, Ben. Thank you all so much for having me here today. It's wonderful to be able to do these sorts of things again, I think. And so, breathing, I'd love to go around and find out names and why we're here and what we hope to get out of the session today. But first of all, a little bit about me. Obviously, breathing is very important as an opera singer. Very important for my whole day-to-day. But not only is it important so that I can get through an operatic role. If I'm not breathing properly on stage in the evening, I'm not going to have enough stamina to get through the performance. I was told by a teacher many years ago I should feel like my body has run a marathon after I performed, and this should all be free and easy and comfortable. So that's what we're going to talk about more today. But more than that, my breathing for my operatic career, is breathing in everyday life, and that's why we're all here today. Because I am living more of my life not on stage than I am on stage. So it's important that I'm breathing properly for my walking, for my hiking, for my tennis playing, all that sort of stuff. And I'd love to hear what physical activity you all do as well, and we can discuss that and how we want to breathe for that today too. And even other things like thinking about breathing with sleeping. You know, we lie in bed at night, we can't sleep, and it's amazing how focusing on deep belly breathing can relax us, can send us into sleep so much easier than just everything that's sort of rushing around in our heads. So all these great things we're going to discuss today. But first of all, if you don't mind going around and sharing your names and why you're here, and if you've been here for all the sessions, what you've learned, or that'd be wonderful. So do you mind if we start with you?
No problem. My name is Catherine.
Nice to meet you.
And I am here as your videographer.
Thank you.
And Francis and I have been kind of splitting the duties.
Amazing.
So I think you've made all the sessions except the Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
I used to be a lot more active than I've been recently, but as I said, I've recently been diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
The meds I'm taking are beating the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that I can do to make my life better,
Mm-hmm.
I will take. I get one of the nodules that metastasized is in my right lung.
Okay.
So breathing, I don't know if it's conscious or unconscious, sometimes feels a little short of breath.
Okay.
And anything I can do to alleviate that will be mazel tov.
Definitely. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing.
So, my dear.
Thank you.
I'm Francis,
Hi, nice
and
to meet
I have been recently a part of the St. Helena Film Ministry, so do that. But I'm also in Bronx Concert Singers,
Nice.
which is a community chorus. So breathing is a good part of my focus when I'm singing, and also just walking. The shutdown, I kind of turned into a couch potato.
I think we all did. Yeah.
And so I have noticed the difference in my stamina and my ability to walk more swiftly. Rather, I'm slower than I used to be. And I'm looking to refresh the things that I learned over the years of studying voice and taking gym classes.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that I will get practical applications out of this.
Cool. Fantastic. That's
Okay.
great to have you here. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Joanne. I attended all the sessions. This is the last session I've been including this. So
Great.
last year I had some difficulty. I was in the hospital for 23 days of breathing, trouble breathing.
Okay.
to adjust, as I mentioned. Just to walk, the first time I left the hospital and had to walk to the supermarket, it was an ordeal without, I didn't have any oxygen. My body was making the oxygen. It was more difficult then, but since I had a number of masses said for lots of people, a number of people, for their health, I have had no more trouble breathing.
That's great.
So yeah, it's miraculous.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see what the methods were to improve the breathing, so that in my last my last days of life, I'll be 71 and I don't always have a lot of vigor.
Okay.
I can use these techniques if I feel that they would be helpful. I'm interested in learning how to extend my ability to sing, notes, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Very impressive to see someone on screen, on TV, with the range of, ability to hold a note almost interminably.
Yeah. And they can be built up as well over time, which is fantastic. You build that. So thank you. Thank you all for sharing. It's wonderful to have you here today. So to start off with, I would love to talk about posture a little bit. Do we all feel okay with standing up for a minute or two? I know it's hot. We stand up, and posture is very, very important, first of all, to get everything in alignment. So if we feel comfortable, are we okay to flop over a little bit, as much as feels comfortable? Ideally, if we can go the whole way with our head hanging loose, that's great, but if we can't go quite that far, no problem. Just as far as you're comfortable. And from this position, I would love you to shake your arms out. Shake them out. If you feel comfortable, shake a leg out as well. Make sure those knees are nice and bent. And just taking some low, deep breaths from this position. Great, nice and easy and deep. Breathing into that, expanding that back rib cage if we can, feeling that belly nice and loose at the front. And then from this position, I would love to slowly come up, vertebrae by vertebrae. So really slowly bringing that spine back up to a standing position. So coming up. Our head is the last thing that sort of will come up. And then nice and easy from here. Excellent. So from this position, our heads are nice and loose and free, moving it from side to side a little bit. And we're wanting to imagine a string coming up from the top of our heads, pulling ourselves up nice and straight. And from this place, we want what Alexander Technique calls an active position, but we don't want rigidity. We want it to be nice and open, nice and free, but not locked. So we want to think, first of all, the string from the head, then we want to think our earlobes over our shoulders, so keeping them nice and aligned with where our shoulders are. Great. And then from here, we want our shoulders to be over our hips. So we don't want any sort of sway back situations or too forward with our sternums collapsing. We want it nice and shoulders over those hips. Fantastic. And then we want our hips over our knees. And these knees, really important, we want them nice and bent. I'm super guilty when I'm performing on stage to go into this locked knee position, and it locks everything else up. So keeping them nice and loose, great. And then our knees are sort of balancing over our ankles. And that's our active position for breathing optimally, basically. So that's great. From this position, we're going to talk more in depth about breathing in a minute, but let's just take some nice deep breaths into our tummies, and can we just letting it out on a sound for now. Great. And when you're ready, take another breath for me, just low and deep, and just let it all out. Great. Fantastic. Good. Cool. How do we feel in this position? Does that feel like a good, neutral, active position to be based in?
Yes.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you. So maybe we can sit down from here. We can stand up again later, but let's break up the breathing. I want to talk about the breathing today in 4 sections. So we're going to go through everything. We're going to do exercises for everything, and please, if you have questions at any time, let me know. I don't want anything to be confusing or you to go away wondering what I said or anything like that. So just feel free to button whenever you want to. So the four key phases of breathing we're going to talk about. First of all, point number 1 is the inhalation. That's our breath that we're going to take. Then point number 2 we're going to talk about is the suspension. This is not quite so important perhaps for just everyday life. It's more important when singing, but it still is really useful to be able to activate the muscles that we're going to talk about today. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is phonation, is the singing, is the talking, the yelling, the crying, the laughing, all of it. That's number 3. And then point number 4 is the release, is resetting everything for that next inhalation. And you will find when we've covered all of them that number 4, the release, and number 1, the inhalation, are really similar. That sort of becomes one, but we'll break it down into these 4 sections to begin with, if that sort of makes sense. Great. Any questions so far? We're all good? Okay, cool. So let's talk about the inhalation. When we take a breath for singing, our diaphragm descends, our diaphragm here goes down, it creates a vacuum, and our lungs open and the air goes in. So we want to think about this breathing in a 3D capacity. The lungs go all the way right round to the back, as I'm sure you're aware. You want to breathe right into that to get as much air as possible happening. And yeah, so can we take a breath? And what I'd love to do is to just for now think about breathing deep into your tummy, perhaps having a hand on your tummy or a hand on your rib cage as well, one on each if that works. And I'd just love you to take a breath in for me when you're ready. Great. Let it all out. Let out all the air that you have. Fantastic. And when you're ready, take another breath and let it out in a hiss again. Great. And let's do that again. Nice. Going well. Take another breath and fantastic. That's great. And letting it out again. Good. You want to make sure you let out every little bit of air that you have in your lungs. Let it all out. Great. That's good. Fantastic. Going well. And that should be hopefully nice and easy and free and hopefully quite relaxing as well to do that. Great. So when we're doing this inhalation, we want to make sure our sternum is nice and up. We don't want to collapse, anything to collapse inwards or to be too forced or pushed. We just want to think of raise, activating out from our chest. We want to keep that nice and active and alert. And then when we take our breath from our bellies, we don't want to collapse this in too much. We want to keep it nice and presented forward. And release all that air out of our lungs. So can we, this time, if it's possible, could we put a hand behind our back rib cage, if possible? Great. And when you take your breath, I'd love for you to feel a bit of sideways expansion happening back here. So taking a breath nice and deep into your lungs and whenever you're ready. Great. Fantastic. And when you're ready, just take another breath for me and make sure your sternum's nice and up when you do so. Great. Fantastic. And taking another breath when you're ready. Fantastic. Oh, some of you are going for a while. That's great. Taking another breath. Great. Cool. Fantastic. How are we feeling our rib cages once you've finished? How are you feeling with your rib cages? Are we feeling expansion happening? You're feeling a sideways expansion? Excellent. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. Because we want to think of the rib cage as a barrel all the way around, and it's flexible. It's not held in position like this, but it comes and it goes. Like this is what's happening with our rib cage and our expansion there. And sometimes I get asked in my teaching, which happens first? Do I do my tummy, or do I do my rib cage, or what happens when? And often, for me personally, my tummy will fill up with air a split second before my rib cage. It's kind of tummy, then rib cage, sort of, but it's almost simultaneous that it happens. So yeah, any questions about that first point, the inhalation? No? Great. Combined with that, I want you to think about the concept of the Big Mac breath. You know, your Big Mac, your big burger, and here in the States, they're double the size what we get back home in New Zealand. And I want you to think of the mouth a big open mouth to take that breath in. So this will lower your larynx, it will keep your tongue forward, it will have everything nice and open to breathe with. So combined with that rib cage and that tummy, which is going so well, I'd love for us to think now of a nice big round shape as we breathe in. And then just again, we can go as we let it out, yeah, great. And then when you're ready to take a breath, I'd love that Big Mac breath for me. A nice, great, and then big breath, great. Fantastic. And this will create space because with breathing, space is imperative. The more space we have, the more ease we have. And the Big Mac breath will also lift our soft palates in our mouths too, which is that yawning sensation. If we all yawn for a second, we feel that lift inside, yeah. And it might trigger an actual yawn, and that's okay. It's very hot out there today, and we're all doing well. But we want that lift and that lots and lots of space. Great, cool. So that's point number 1. Let's go to point number 2, the suspension. So this is activating our muscles, and everyone has slightly different muscles they might want to activate, but ideally we want to talk about, without getting too complicated, the transverse abdominals. Any idea where these muscles might be found?
Right here.
Fantastic. And they're also all the way around as well. That's great.
Biomajor.
No, but yeah, it's fantastic. Let me show you, just for ease perhaps. I've got a little image here of the transverse abdominals. As we can see here, there are bands that go all the way around into the back. This one here is probably the most helpful, but they're also at the front as well. And we want to think below.
Could you show the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, is that coming up on the screen?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Down a little.
Down a little bit?
Perfect.
Great. So it's what I'm talking about here is the band of, this one here is most useful, the band of muscles that go all the way around into the back. And also here at the front too. And they're found below the belly button. Did we all saw that? That makes sense? Great. And we want to activate this band of muscles when we before we phonate, before we sing, so that it takes the pressure away from here. I don't know if any of you have gotten to the end of the day and been like, oh my goodness, my voice is just so tired. I've got nothing left. And if we're speaking or singing on the body, this will take away the pressure from the laryngeal area, which is what we're wanting. So one great way, we're going to do a few different ways to feel these muscles, because it can be a little tricky sometimes. One first thing I'd love you to do is to take a breath. We're going to take a breath in for 4 counts. We're going to hold for 4 counts, and then we're going to release for 4 counts. And the important thing to think about with this exercise is that it's the holding for 4 counts that is the suspension muscles that will be activated, hopefully. So let's give this a little go. So if you want, hand on tummy, hand on rib cage if you'd like. Let's take a breath nice and low into our bellies, and I'd love you to in, 2, 3, 4, and I'll kind of guide you through it. So if we all are ready to start, let's take a breath. So breathe, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and then release, 2, 3, 4. Great. So maybe releasing on a S or a V or whatever feels comfortable. Let's do that again. Do we feel like we were holding for too long, or can we go for a bit longer?
Longer.
We can go for longer? Great, let's extend it to an 8. Let's double it, see what happens. If you can't quite get there, that's also completely fine. Just do whatever is comfortable for you. So let's breathe in for 8. So breathe, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and release 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fantastic. On the hold, did we feel anything? You may not have, and that's completely fine. Did you feel anything at all? A tugging, a tightness? Great, fantastic. Often it is sort of below our belly buttons. That's where we will feel a bit of activation. And this next exercise, hopefully, it will be more easy to feel. The important thing about the suspension is not to feel locked. We don't want to with our tummies or our abs or whatever happens to be around this area. We don't want to hold. We want it to be active but not rigid. It's that constant balance between tension and release, which is what happens in singing and also everyday life as well. So this next exercise, I'd love to do lots of little hisses. We're going to take a breath and we're going to so lots of little hisses. And during this exercise, I'd love for you to have your hands on this kind of area of your bodies, and hopefully you will feel a bouncing, like a trampoline kind of sensation. So let's take a breath. Great, fantastic. And then fantastic. Great. And if possible, I'd love you to isolate the bouncing from here. Fantastic. Great. Yeah, that's what we're wanting. That's excellent. So, great. Cool. So let's take another breath and then really try and isolate the bouncing to this lower abdominal region if we can. Great. There's some good stuff happening. Awesome. What are we feeling? Tell me what you're feeling.
Going in, tightening.
Great. Fantastic. That's excellent. That's what we want. And that's one of the great exercises to think about activating the body and to getting the body in this really active, alive position, which we need for our breathing. Another version of this is a so it's like SS and then SH. So if we could take a breath, and this time I'd love, and hopefully on me, you can maybe, do you see that bouncing that's kind of happening? Great. That's what I'd love. So, yeah, if you stand up, if you want to, feel free. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, by all means, go for it. So, awesome, well done, fantastic.
Be up here or up here, right?
Yeah, ideally kind of around this, my belly button's here, so around this belly button area.
Right.
And you will feel a bit above and a bit below. Some people for body support like to think even lower. They like to think pelvic floor activation, and that is also great. That's just a little bit harder to maybe teach in a class situation, so that's something to take away at home and think about. But for now, I'd love, the tummy is a great way to be able to feel that movement. Let's try it again. So if you prefer just this or this, either or is fine. But let's take a breath and great. And when we're ready to take a breath, think about that Big Mac breath for our mouths. Great, and Big Mac breath. Great, fantastic. Good. Oh, you're all doing so well. It's awesome. Cool, fantastic, thank you. So grabbing a seat, what do we find out of those exercises? What was most useful for what do we feel the best in our bodies?
The alternating between the shush and the...
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Feeling the activation. Yeah. And what did you feel that lower abdominal?
In here,
Great.
and just a little bit in the muffin top.
Fantastic. No, that's great. That's really good.
That's totally, you can totally take that seat up there. Your audience is growing.
It's growing. It's wonderful. Thank you for joining. It's excellent. Oh, it's wonderful. Hi, thank you for being here. I'm Liz Harris.
Harris.
And what was your name?
Wilma Rosa.
Wilma Rosa, nice to meet
Yes,
you.
thank you so much, and I'm glad that you're here. I'm sorry, but one of my family, well, we lost 4 families, and one of my sister was just coming in, and she called me. I couldn't rush out here real quick.
Okay, well,
I
it's
missed her.
wonderful to have you here, so thank you for still
Thank
making
you.
it. That's great.
Okay, let's get ready.
So just for both of you who have just come,
My name is Cesar. You know me.
Caesar, how are you, Caesar?
I'm happy to be here.
nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Just a couple of things that we've touched on already, just really quickly. We've done posture, we've done a bit of that, and maybe if you watch the live stream later, you'll see that. Just talking about keeping really nice and upright and everything free and open. And then also we're talking about the 4 phases of breathing today. We're going through 4 different aspects. And so far we've done the inhalation, so we've taken a breath, we've filled up our rib cage with air, our tummy's gone out, and then we've gone through that, and then we've gone through the second phase, which is what you've just heard now a little bit of, the suspension. And the suspension is where we activate our body muscles. These muscles are round, the transverse abdominal muscles that go round our tummy and round into our back, and these become activated, not grabbed, but just tightened a little bit of pulling to support the breathing, support the voice, support all of that. And that's what we've done so far. And then we're going to move into point number 3 now, which is singing, phonation, making sound. If that's sort of is a very quick recap, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yes.
Great, cool. So let's talk about, if there's no questions about the suspension phase, please ask if there's anything.
When we talk about the suspension phase, I've heard the advice to you do not pull in, you stay out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yet I don't feel necessarily that I'm staying out when as I'm losing air.
Okay. Now that makes sense. You feel like everything's coming in when you let go of your air.
Yes.
Okay. That's such a fantastic question, and everything will come in when you're letting out air. It's just the physics of it. Your tummy will come in, your ribcage will come in, but the point is to delay that process as much as possible. We don't want, if you can see on me, we don't want to take a breath and then just that's the extreme version, but we don't just want a really quick collapse. We want to maintain everything being out for as long as possible. It's why often opera singers my friends and everyone love to perform in quite tight clothing often, a tight dress or a corset, because they can feel that pressure and they can feel something to push against is so useful. And I know in everyday clothing we don't really have that ability, but we want to think about delaying the rib cage and the tummy coming in as much as possible. And that's a matter of training up those muscles and also telling the brain not to let the rib cage collapse too much as well. That's also really important. And in terms of the pulling in, you don't want to pull in to support the muscles. You want just like a little tuck, which is why the is so great, because you feel that activation about here. You feel that tuck, and that's what you want, rather than a tummy coming in kind of sensation. Does that sort of answer your question at all, or feel free to ask another one?
I will have to try experimenting.
Great. Do you, I am more than happy to, if you want to take a breath, to come and put my hands on your rib cage and see what's happening. Are you happy with that? I can put on a mask if I come closer. Great.
I'll step in front of the camera with you.
Thank you, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'd love to put my hands here. And could you take a breath and let it out in a s for me? Great. And whenever you're ready, just take another breath for me. Oh, you're going well. It's awesome. Take another breath whenever you're ready. Oh, lovely. Expansion. And then s for me. Great. Letting it go. Fantastic. When you're ready, take another breath. Great. Excellent. Great. Try and keep against my hands. Keep against my hands as much as possible. Good. How did that feel? I'm really happy with the ribcage expansion I felt. It's fantastic. You're getting it into the back. Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I tried to do back breathing.
Oh, that's excellent.
At least some part of the day.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Put your hands on my ribcage for a second, great. And I'm going to take a breath. And then,
oh yeah.
Do Do you feel that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so but you're doing some of that as well, which is awesome, but that's what I wanted. And did you feel how I didn't collapse in straight away? Hopefully you felt that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
But it was very deliberate.
Yeah, and I mean, I've trained these muscles over the past 15, 20 years of singing. But yeah, that's what we're wanting eventually. Yeah, which I love that I can feel it on you already though. That's so fantastic. But building up that capacity even more is just doing these exercises. I tell my singing students to do these exercises at the start of a practice session. Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. It was wonderful. Do these singing, these breathing exercises for 10 to 15 minutes at the start of a day. Ideally, I recommend standing in front of a mirror and seeing what's happening. Super useful. Even standing side on to the mirror, and then you can kind of sort of see what's happening with the rib cage. And because so often we think we're doing something when we're doing something different. It's like, so to actually put ourselves in front of a mirror is super useful for being like, oh, my rib cage is coming in really quickly, or oh, and to work on expanding that, Francis, is just doing exactly what you're doing, but hands on rib cage and just trying to see how long you can do this for before taking another breath, and that will build up your capacity to stay out for longer. Yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Anyone else with any other questions? Welcome. Hey, no other questions at the moment?
Yeah, that question.
Yeah, go for it.
When I'm gonna take the breath,
Yes.
where I have to put my mind, where I'm gonna, I know the long hair.
Yes.
I know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where I put my, I start
What do you think about?
the air, I start
Okay.
putting the air. In the bottom,
Yes.
here, where?
That's such a good question. So when we take a breath, we want to think about our tummy going out, and then our rib cage going fung like this.
Oh,
Yeah, so we go,
I bring it down.
yeah, so
And to
down,
the side.
down, down, and out.
Oh.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's what we're wanting. And so you put your hand on your tummy and a hand on rib cage, great, and we're gonna go, everyone else can do this too. And filling up with that Big Mac breath that we've been talking about, great, and filling up with air and then great, let it out for me.
Yeah.
Great, and when you're ready, take another breath and I can see what's happening. Great. Fantastic, and then release.
I don't know how to do it.
Great. Do you mind me putting my hand on your rib cage as well?
Please.
Feel free to
I
come
need
forward.
help.
It's
Come
so
from the
useful
side,
having
come
someone
from the
often.
side.
Yeah, no, feel free. If you stand here, hopefully they can see you on the camera. Great. So take a breath for me, and I'd love to just see what's happening. Take a breath, feel that rib cage expand, great, and then for me. Great, when you're ready, take another breath. Great, when you're ready, take another breath. Great, could you take your breath through your mouth this time? Good. Take it through your mouth. Good, fantastic. You're getting more air in your lungs when you take it through your mouth.
Thank you.
Good. That's wonderful.
I love to see it.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
You're releasing it more. So that's another great thing to think about. Often taking that breath in through the mouth. The nose is great. I know, especially while we're walking around the city, we don't often want to breathe with our mouths. I don't want to do that. But if we are through the nose, trying to make sure everything's open around that, and that we are releasing all our air and not stacking with our breath, which we'll talk about more in a minute with the release section. And I think you'll benefit also from talking about the release. We'll get there in a minute. It's okay. So let's talk about phonation, about singing for a second. So we take a breath, the inhalation. The suspension, we activate those muscles, and then we make sound. So I'd love for you, hand on tummy, hand on rib cage, take a breath for me, and then just let it out. Great. Fantastic. And when we're ready, take another breath and just Excellent. Take another breath when we're ready. Awesome. There's some of you still going. Fantastic. Good. So we want this sound to be from our guts, from our bellies. We want it to be here. I'd love to demonstrate for a second the wrong way of doing this so we can feel what that's like. So, ha, ha, I'm all kind of up here and nothing's down here and I'm ha. If we want to try that, we can. We're all very high and nothing's on the body. So, ha, ha. And I know that's sometimes hard to, yeah? Great. And now I want to do the correct way, the ha from our bellies. Good. Fantastic. And then with this sound, so with the inhalation, the suspension, I'd love to do some sirening. Do we know what sirening is? We do, yeah? So I'd love to just go just on an E vowel with our bodies nice and activated. So let's take that breath deep and low. Great. And then fantastic. Good. Are we feeling our muscles? Are we feeling those activate at all?
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Can we, to make sure we have maximum activation for those muscles, if it's not too difficult, could we go so from that place? So do it once to get those muscles involved, and then do a siren for me if we can. So take a breath. Sense. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, doing so well. Any questions about that? No? No puzzled looks? Question, Francis? Or?
When you're sirening,
Yes.
how different is that from the piece of it in terms of where you're placing things?
Where you're placing
The
the
voice.
sound, the
Yeah.
voice, that's a great question. It should be in the same place, ideally. It will feel different because it's no longer just an aspirate sound, it's actual tone. But I'm feeling it here. I'm feeling it. We should feel it in the. I don't want to get too complicated, but it's such a great question. I put it in my resonators.
Okay.
Put it up in my cheeks. We want it all, but this should also be coming out and should also be there as well, because we want everything coming out into the room. We want it all coming out. We don't want to. If we hold back air and we hold back sound, it all gets so clogged up and everything gets so tight, and we don't know what's happening, and we can't sustain that for very long. It's very tiring. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great. No, thank you. It's a fantastic question. Any other questions so far? Yes?
Yeah, because I don't know. With the mouth closed, I make some sound. It's like it sounds good. When I do it with the mouth, not through here. I mean, like singing.
Yes.
Then sometimes I'm out of tune.
Okay. What's happening when you're out of tune?
You know, what is the resonance? Resonance is like a that sound. That's the resonance.
The noise is a resonator. Yes. Yeah. We want to think more. I love to think more cheekbones is the resonator, because we don't want the sound to sound too nasal when we're singing. I don't know if I can do. That's a very nasal sound. We want it more forward than the nose. We want it in here. If you are struggling a little bit with feeling flat or feeling out of tune, great thing to do is to think about that soft palate. So soft palate for everyone is roof of our mouths, up in here. When we yawn, let's all yawn again. The soft palate goes up in the mouth, goes up like this. And another great way of manually getting the soft palate up is 2 fingers either side of the nose, pushing up, and that will lift up your soft palate. Ease. It's my lifted soft palate from that position. Ease. Great. Nice sound. Yeah, that will lift things and that will help your tuning.
Thank you.
That will help you be in tune. So another way of thinking about it too, just to throw you all the information in my toolbox today, is to smile. When you smile, it lifts everything. And singing with a smile is just, it's so great because it just gets all the resonators activated and it just lifts that soft palate and it should make life easier. If we sing like that, it might be kind of, I mean this is the extreme, but it pulls everything down. So we want a lift in the sound always. But thank you, great question. Thank you so much. Yes.
When you did that just now,
Yes.
pressing on your nose,
Yes.
that helps you to hit a high note.
It can do. It can just help you it's more a pushing up either side of the nostril. It helps you to think about lifting that soft palate. Because for some people, a yawn doesn't work and they need to feel something more tangible with their hands to get that lift happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you practice it every day.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well done. But to sing high as well, you want to think coming out your head too, and that will help also get the sound going higher and
Because
easier.
I see these women on TV, and they just hit these beautiful,
I know.
clear
Yeah.
tones. I mean, they're just beautiful.
They
I
make it
say,
look so easy.
How did they do that? What should I do?
Yeah.
But I think this will
Get that lift?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yay, that's awesome. Cool, lots
Okay.
of pennies dropping, it's wonderful. Any other questions before we move on to our final phase of breathing? No, we're good? Okay. Yes, please.
Yeah. When I'm going to sing,
Yes.
I gotta push in a little bit or not?
I don't want to think too much of a push in because then you will release your air quicker. I just want you to think about keeping out for as long as possible.
Out. Oh.
Yes, you will come in. You naturally will. That will happen. But think about keeping out for as long as you can to maintain maximum breath capacity and airflow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's so many good questions. I love it. Thank you. So the final phase of breathing today is our release, and I love this phase. It's sometimes a little difficult to get our heads around, but it's probably the most important in addition to breathing in. But this will end up being the breath in as well. Will end up being the inhalation. So the release is what happens on the release is we let out all our air, and then our tummy should just flop out, and our rib cage should then follow suit. So this is very similar to our inhalation. It's coming full circle back to that. If we don't release though after making sound or taking a breath or singing, we will stack with our air. We will stack and stack and stack, and again is very tiring and is not good long term. So the release is super important, and it should be really automatic. I love to tell my students, I don't tell them at the end of a phrase or when they're singing, I don't say take a breath, because when you tell someone to take a breath, our most natural response is to go, we take a breath, and it's not so good. So I say to them, release, and therefore they release their tummies and their rib cage, and that becomes the inhalation. That then is that. So a great way to feel this, hopefully, if we feel comfortable, is to, we can stand if we want, but we don't have to, is I'd love you to all hand on tummy, hand on rib cage. We're going to let out every little bit of air that we have, and then we're going to hold our breaths. We're not going to take any air in at all until we feel like we absolutely have to. And in which case, I would love you to just let the tummy go. Just let it go, let the rib cage go and fill up with air automatically. And we'll all be doing this at different stages. We'll all have different levels, and that's completely fine. So let's see if we can give that a go. So maybe take a breath for me and let it all out, and don't take a breath in once you've let it all out. Let it all go, great, and hold that breath for those of you that are there. Fantastic, hold it, don't take a breath, keep your hand on your tummy. Great, keep it there, don't take a breath, and when you feel like you absolutely must, just go, just release that tummy for me. Great, well done, fantastic. Nice, Joanne, that's great. Great. When we're ready, just release. Okay. How do we feel? Did we feel that release? Should we do it again? What do we think? Do it again? Give it another go? Okay, great. It's a practice run. Cool. So take a breath, let it all go. Good. Our tummies will be coming in, letting out all that air. And once we've let it out, just hold it. Keep your tummy in. Just hold that breath for me. Good, good, good. Hold it till you feel like you absolutely can't hold it any longer at all. And then just let that tummy go. Open the mouth for our Big Mac breath. Nice, fantastic work. That was excellent, Catherine. Great. Cool. Do we feel a release?
Yes.
Happen? Wonderful. And Francis, you probably felt it on me before when I took a breath. Did you feel suddenly a real, natural, big, giant expansion happen?
Yes.
Hopefully. Great. That's what we're wanting for the release.
But I also felt like I had something in the head, like a headache or something.
Oh,
Definitely I felt.
on the release, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that normal?
No, maybe it was the holding the breath for a sec that made the head go, and it's so hot today as well that we don't want to hold our breath too many times. I just get people to do that because it's a great way of really feeling the extreme of the release and what that feels like. Yeah, does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. So they are our 4 phases. We've got inhalation, suspension, singing, phonation, and release. And then release and inhalation become one. That becomes, however, if you want to think of it as an inhalation, if you want to think of it as a release, that is completely fine.
And singing phonation, what is singing phonation?
Oh, singing or phonation or sound, so it's that's the making sound. Point number 3 is making sound. Whether you're singing, you may be talking, you may be yelling at someone, all of those sorts of sounds. That's what the phonation part is. Does that sort of make sense? Yeah, no, fantastic. Do we have, I've got more exercises, I've got more stuff we can work on. Do we have any questions about those phases or any particular phases we'd like to focus on more at all? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Working with the exercises that you just introduced to us.
Yes.
Does at any time we climb a little bit with the tones? Like if you're working with a piano, you just work the scale.
Yes.
Would we be able to be from a baritone
To do some singing
or
today?
going into soprano?
Yeah, no, I'd love to do some
You could
singing
do that?
today. No,
you
absolutely.
could actually work it?
We can do some singing, you mean? Or
Yeah.
no, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do some singing. I'd love to start off with, first of all, my pufferfish exercise, which is a great one for airflow, and then we can get into some maybe some vowel sounds if you'd like as well, and go as high as we want or as low as we want if people are interested, and try and combine that with all these phases of breathing and see how we feel.
Yeah.
Great, cool.
'Cause I hear some of these people on TV when they're having these competition.
Mm-hmm.
They're singing on a certain level, and all of a sudden they open their mouths and they just have this super soprano
Mariah Carey.
sound. Have you?
Mariah Carey can do that.
Gorgeous.
No, it's fantastic.
So
And
I tried that at home. Oh, what am I gonna do?
but you will find though, this breathing work will help you connect to your
Breathing.
body, and then your becomes it becomes from the body, you know, because you've learned how to activate these muscles, and they support everything that happens here, and you'll find a big improvement
Cool.
with the singing.
Yes,
So
very
yeah,
nice. Yeah,
but
very good.
let's start off with the
Have you noticed any of your compatriots
Yes.
that have had COVID,
Okay.
that have had their voices affected by the COVID, and what are some of the things they have been doing to try to recover? We know that there's problems in the lungs, that people who used to have no difficulty whatsoever are now having major problems. I'm just wondering, anecdotally, what have your friends that have experienced this, what have they done to try to recover?
That's an amazing question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I knew a couple of people that got COVID who are around my age, and they have actually been fine breathing wise. They haven't had any difficulties. So I can't speak specifically to that, but I guess I would recommend things that I as a singer would do. I would recommend doing things like steaming over a bowl of hot water to get that all the moisture back into the lungs, and to do things like that. Things I would do as a singer, to do this deep breathing and try and build up that capacity. You know, each day build it up a little bit longer. See if your can go for a little bit further than it did the day before or than it did the previous week. And yeah, I would really think about trying to get back to your body and being patient and kind with the process, because it's going to be a long process for some people as well, and that's frustrating, but it's a journey, and hopefully some of these exercises might be able to help that. But yeah, sorry I can't speak super directly to that, but thank you for your question. Yeah.
I would just say, just relating to that question, that I think what we've seen, and I've known some people who are really severely, some singers who are really severely affected by COVID. And these techniques that you're teaching today, which are about breathing in I don't want to say in a generic way, but improving the depth of breath in a generic way, are the kinds of things that we need to, that are helpful to us as, let's say, as civilians, to learn to do just generally to improve the depth of our breath. It's even more true with long-term COVID sufferers. I mean, there's at least a couple of singers I know who spent at least 4 or 5 weeks in the hospital, who were over COVID, but the issues with breathing remained. And so I think, the point that we're all making with these 7 weeks, and it's great we're sitting here at the last of this first group of sessions. We will hopefully come back here and do more. Is that these exercises, which are great to learn to sing, are also the exercises that people who've kind of lost their breath in a long-term kind of way can do to get that back.
Absolutely.
And the other thing, one that we've heard in a few of the sessions is that, like, if you think about a baby, we talked about this in one of the sessions. If you think about a baby takes a breath and cries for hours and hours and hours and hours. Well, they haven't learned to tighten these things up. What you're talking about is making the breath free. It's getting back to that point where you're not shy about the sound you make.
Absolutely.
Because you made that sound, that kind of shallow sound, and then you went into a little bit of your opera sound, which I know very well because I heard you sing. But like, there's this point of saying, of getting away from the shyness that we've all been taught to hold ourselves in. We want to hold our stomachs in, and we want to hold our shoulders.
Yeah.
As you said, when somebody says take a breath, you go like that.
Stack up here,
and you're stuck. And when you're talking about activating, what you want to do is activate all of
the whole body.
The whole body, head to toe, especially with your stance and approach. So to go back to the father's question, I think what we're talking about is that these exercises, which are good for singing and help us learn to sing, also help people whose breath has become an issue at a point in their life when they've been breathing and they thought they knew how to breathe since they were kids. It kind of breaks down some barriers, and you can go back maybe to the beginning and learn that freeness of breath.
Definitely, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
So it's all about the same kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great. Cool, awesome. Should we do a couple more exercises? How are we at the time? Oh, great, still got some time. Cool. So let's do the pufferfish exercise first of all, which is great because hopefully you'll be able to feel air coming out of your mouth. So this exercise is, we're going to take a breath. So we're going to release or inhale. We're going to activate these lower muscles. We're going to then sing. And what I'd love you to do is hand up in front of the mouth, and we're going to go. And I want you to feel cold air on your hands, and that will show that you're releasing air from the body out. So let's. Good. Are we feeling air on our hands?
Yes.
Fantastic. Let's go up one. Da, da. Good. Good. Still filling ear. Right. That exercise because it's a really tangible way to feel ear. When we sing on it's like, where is my ear? Sometimes you have no, you can't feel it. It's hard to know what's happening. So this pufferfish exercise, you can tangibly feel the ear coming out of your body onto your hand, which is fantastic. Any questions about that? Yes.
Yes, when I was
Great.
blowing out, right?
Yes.
This section here, it tightens.
Okay.
somewhat.
No, that's
So if I want to sound like not a soprano, but
yes.
very high,
Mm-hmm.
should it be tighter in here in the throat or loose?
Ideally loose. The muscles are being used here for sure.
Yes, the muscles,
But
yeah.
you want to feel the body is active and not tight, but it's active, and this is free and loose. That's what you want to be feeling. So actually, in relation to that, can we put our hand on our laryngeal area, our Adam's apple or larynx or whatever? Great, fantastic. And I would love you to just swallow for me. And when you swallow, you should feel it go up a little and down. Do we feel that?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent,
Yes.
fantastic. If we take a Big Mac breath and do we feel it go down as well?
Uh-huh.
Excellent. And it's from that kind of position we want to sing. Great, we want to keep it there. Great, let's go up one. So when we take a breath, this drops. Great, Big Mac breath. Great, dropping. Good, the higher we go, let's think about that smile and that soft palate. Good, let's do one more. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Great, how do we feel?
I'm doing something that I didn't think I
Yay!
would do.
That's so
I'm going to
awesome.
practice that.
Dude, that's that
Yeah.
relaxed position we want it from. That's fantastic. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
And hopefully, did you feel some of the soft palate lifting? That smile sensation just then?
Yeah, the police, I got a cold. I
Okay.
got a cold tonight.
That's fair
I'm
enough.
using cold for this.
Okay. Yeah. One more thing in relation to this, breathing, this singing, just everything. Another way to activate the body is to stand, if you feel comfortable, but you don't have to, is to stand on one foot and to balance. And these balancing muscles will activate our lower core and get the sound on the body, and will also help you to be able to sing higher. If we have this activation going, if you need to hold onto a chair, if you want to go behind your chair or hold onto something to support yourself, feel free to do that. But I'd love to maybe finish up with doing this R scale again, and we could, if we can, one foot it. Let's give that a go. So I'd love to. Good, and balancing and taking a breath and expanding that rib cage. Nice and low and free. Great, and smiling. Great, let's pause for 1 second. You're going so well. One more thing. Can I get your hands to go like this for me at the same time? This is going to be the airflow. This is, I love hand gestures. They relate to mirror neurons in the brain, and this is showing what the ear should be doing. So, great. Last hand movements. flow released while we sing. It's a great little thing to do at the same time. Does that sort of make sense? I know I've covered a lot of stuff today. Do we have any final questions? Please ask me anything.
Yeah, I got the vocal cord here, right?
Yes.
Then I have to keep all the time the mouth open here, right? I over the vocal cord.
Yes.
I gotta think over the vocal cord.
Yes. You want to think nice and open here. You want to think a big ball in your throat. You want to hands going out to open the throat as you sing. No, that's okay. But if you do this at the same time, when you recover from your cold, this will expand your throat. This is, again, another mirror neuron gesture. It will get that expansion happening.
Thank you.
And that big open space back here. A ball, a balloon, that sensation to keep it open and free. And the tongue forward, tip of the tongue by the bottom of the teeth, it's not on the throat. So, and you can also practice, if the tongue's getting in the way and you don't have enough space, get it out of the mouth. And then you can put it back in, of course. But we take things to the extreme sometimes to feel, and then we reel it back in. So to get that space and to get that freedom. Yeah. Cool. That's a great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Or anyone else who wants me to feel their ribcage before we finish up or anything like that? Are we all good?
I had a funny question. Do people that have a long tongue,
Yes.
can they do soprano better than anybody else?
As far as I'm aware, the tongue shouldn't make a difference. I am more aware that it's actually things like bone structure and body shape that make a difference in terms of whether or not what voice type you have. Would I be correct? And maybe.
I believe you are. I don't think the tongue length is.
Father could never be a soprano.
Well,
I don't think that was a possibility.
but also often, I
He
couldn't be a tenor then.
baritone.
But I don't want to make it a generalization or anything, but often like smaller, shorter women are often those high soubrette sopranos, and that's often the way it kind of works. So
I know some short mezzos though.
but yes, I know, not to make a big generalization.
They're short everything.
It's a good thing you're not talking about me right now. So.
No. No way.
But thank you all so much. Thank you for coming and for joining.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you for being in the room, and thank you for tuning in all these weeks.
Yeah.
Nothing this week, no more?
This is the last one for now. Last one.
We see you on Sunday again?
Oh, I
This
wish.
is
but-
the